The 2024 Chevrolet Silverado EV RST is the fastest Silverado that Chevy has ever made from the factory. 754 horsepower. It's also the highest range out of any electric truck out there. 440 miles of range in this thing. I mean, just blows everything else out of the water from a range standpoint. And so in this video, I'm going to cover all the exterior, all the interior, go for a drive, see how it drives, do a launch with the wide open watts function, as well as going over the pricing and how it compares to the competition. But as far as the exterior here on the Silverado EV, it is a really cool look. So from a size standpoint, it's actually pretty close to a regular full-size Silverado. Those actually for the short bed crew cab version will be like an inch or so less than this. But otherwise, you know, I mean, it's pretty much identical lengthwise to, you know, regular Silverado. But of course, the proportions are completely different here with this much shorter hood, which gives you much better visibility too, as I'll talk about when we're on the road. But, you know, much shorter hood here, and just all the proportions. You're moving the whole cab forward and also having a longer bed as a result. It's kind of, you know, wild how they shifted this, and it's commendable that this is a brand new thing. This isn't just an electrified version of a regular Silverado like you see from some of the other competitors. You know, this is a truly new thing. It's on the Ultium platform here, and is, you know, really a cool combo. And so, you know, up front there you have the welcome lighting there with the LED strips that are very impressive and intimidating looking. I think is, again, especially in black here, it looks very mean. And then coming down to the sides, you know, I really like the side profile. I think it's really cool how you have the little like sail panel on the back. Kind of reminds me of the old Avalanche, as does the mid gate that you have here in this. And going to the back there, you know, really cool tail lights. I love that you still have the step built into the bumper, something I really love about GM trucks. And so great that you have that. But that mid gate, so it's kind of an interesting thing. So you typically have a 5'11" bed here for the Silverado EV. They only come in the one bed length here, but you can extend that out to 9 feet if you want with the midgate dropped. And the seats also split 60-40, so you can still have some seating there depending on how wide your long item is. And you can also extend it out to 10 feet 10 inches if you have the optional multi-flex tailgate. And so with that, I mean, you have a ton of length there. You're able to haul things. And so, you know, makes it more versatile than a traditional truck if you have items that, you know, fit what you're able to use this for. But, you know, this one also has the tonneau cover on it here. And you also will see there's up to 11 outlets in this thing, can provide up to 10.2 kilowatts of offboard power. There's also a really cool setup with GM Energy where you can now have this be a power backup for your home. And so when your lights go out, if you have your house wired up for this with the GM Energy stuff, then you can have this power your home as well. And, you know, how long it can power will come down to, you know, a wide range of variables, but you know, the fact that it has that capability, it can also charge other EVs if you need. So with the vehicle to load thing, you're able to, you know, help other people out if they need that. And just a really cool, you know, vehicle all around. Plus you also have this e-trunk, which gives you an extra 10.7 cubic feet of storage. Definitely something you don't get with a gas truck. So another advantage over a traditional pickup truck, having that e-trunk there to, you know, throw, you have power outlets in there, but you can also throw luggage in there, whatever you want. It's a good, real usable space, and another great perk here of the Silverado EV. And from the styling standpoint, from just the flexibility, the practicality, and from the look too. I mean, we got like 24-inch wheels. First time Chevy has ever done 24-inch wheels on anything. Massive, massive wheels, really make a statement, as does everything else on this truck. And so overall, I mean, it's definitely going to stand out on the road. The interior of the Silverado EV is really impressive in some ways and a little less impressive in others. But the first thing that really, you know, smacks you in the face are these giant screens that are just really impressive. You have a 17-inch touchscreen, you have an 11-inch gauge cluster, which is really nice and crisp with the graphics. You also even have a 14-inch head-up display, something that no other competitor in the electric truck market offers. And so, I mean, yeah, very, very cool with all this stuff. But moving on to the usual stuff here. First off, sitting down in these seats, really nice, soft, comfortable seats. I love the perforations on them. They're heated and ventilated seats. And, you know, good amount of bolstering for a truck. And I like the red and blue stitching here on them as well for this first edition, the RST. And, you know, it just has the usual lumbar adjustment, their memory seats. Unfortunately, no massage or anything like that. That's something that, you know, you can't get in like a Lightning, for example. No massage here in this, but, you know, still comfortable seats otherwise. The steering wheel here is actually a little less truck-like than I was expecting. It's basically the same wheel you get in the Blazer EV, which is, I mean, still a great wheel. It has a great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches. This one has the, you know, Super Cruise, so you have that at the top, and the red stitching's nice. Just a few buttons here on it. Again, they're just plastic buttons, and this kind of gets me into the whole price point of this vehicle, because this one with destination, you know, is around $96,000. And plastic buttons get a little less excusable at that, you know, price point. You know, you're spending 95 grand on a GM product. You're getting like an Escalade or something like that, which has a much nicer quality for the switchgear and all that. And so, you know, obviously you're paying for that giant battery, the giant range, all the performance. But, you know, just, you're going to see there's some places like that where it's a little iffy. Another area is just all the plastics in here. You have rough plastic that's hard on the top of the dash. You know, all the plastic down lower is also hard and kind of cheap, honestly. Yes, it is best in class range and stuff, but the other electric trucks, you know, at least like the Lightning and stuff, has a lot more luxury at, you know, even a lower price point than this. So, you know, at this price point, I'd be expecting like a high country level of content and luxuries in something like this. And instead, you know, this is coming up far short of that. You have more of that hard plastic all across the dash here, more of the rough materials. I mean, I guess you could argue it's durable. Maybe truck owners won't mind. They certainly don't seem to mind in the Hummer, which also, you know, definitely doesn't have nice quality materials for its price tag either. But it's durable. So some people might, you know, think that's a perk, but for me, you're spending this much money, I want a little more luxury than what this provides. Also, like, even like the elbow points don't have hardly any padding in them. Like, you'd think that at least, you know, do a little more padding in the elbows. The center armrest is nice and softly padded, but just, you know, this doesn't feel even remotely close to $95,000 for the price tag. And I mean, the interior honestly feels like the Blazer, which is 60, you know, as far as the materials and stuff. Moving on to the very impressive stuff, the screens. First off, you have an 11-inch gauge cluster here. It looks great. There's a bunch of different views you can have for it. So you can have it as simple or as complex as you'd like there with all the information that's displayed, but it's all displayed really well, in my opinion, and really nicely laid out. Coming over to the middle of the dashboard here, though, the 17-inch touchscreen is really good in many ways. I love how the screen goes all the way to the corners, fills out the whole thing. There's no, you know, empty space or dead bezels, really. It's really nicely done. And, you know, does all your controls for everything, and this has Google built in. And so, like this and all other, you know, GM electric vehicles going forward, there is no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto whatsoever. GM has defended that, since it was something that definitely ruffled some feathers when they announced it. They defend it by saying when it's baked in, you know, they can do the route calculations with, you know, the charging stops, and that it's a more polished experience compared to phone tethering, which is, you know, dependent on your phone, depending on the connection, you know, can be problematic. I can certainly appreciate that, but I still wish they'd at least give people the option for a subpar experience in their mind. Just for the people who, like for myself, I use a lot of Apple stuff. And you have the Google Play Store here, so if you are in the Android ecosystem, or if you're flexible on the apps you use, it'll be fine. You know, you can see this one has Spotify and Waze downloaded, and, you know, all your apps should work natively in this system. And, you know, as long as you have all your accounts signed in, everything should transfer over from your phone and all that pretty flawlessly. So that's fine. It's just, if you're an Apple user using Apple proprietary apps, none of those are in the Play Store. So, you know, Apple Music's not an option. Apple Maps are not an option. Apple Podcasts are not an option. None of those things. So, you know, that might be a deal breaker for some, maybe not for others. But just one thing I want to make you aware of if you hadn't heard that news yet. It does also have Amazon Alexa integration, all those types of things. I'm going to need more time. I'm going to be spending some more time in these GM EVs here this summer, and we'll give more thoughts on what it's like to live with this, especially as an iPhone user. It still does have Bluetooth, so you can stream music the old-fashioned way with Bluetooth if you'd like. It does phone calls still, you know, that way. And, you know, but voice to text isn't going to be nearly as good as it is with CarPlay, things like that. So I won't go on about that much longer, but, you know, just one thing that's the big downside of this system that I just wish they'd offer that option, even if it's not as good in their mind. But anyway, you know, the other things in here are great. You have all the camera views in here, you know, all the radio stations, all that is easy to, you know, go through. Your drive modes, all that are in there, and, you know, a really nicely laid out system. It's nice and snappy, hasn't been slow or anything. All your controls for the climate are right there in the bottom bar all the time, and that's, you know, really nice to have all of those constantly there. But you do still have the physical controls beneath the air vents as well, and so that is a nice consideration that they have that. I wish it wasn't the piano black plastic though, which also, you know, gets dirty and not attractive looking very quickly. But, you know, just glad we have some physical controls here, since stuff like the Lightning, for example, is all in the screen. So definitely can appreciate that. Another thing I do really appreciate is the amount of storage space you have here in this. It's a good amount of space. You have these little pockets here in the center console. You also have large pockets in the doors with multiple bottle holders. There's also a wireless charging pad here and some USB-C jacks. There's, you know, cup holders. There's another bonus bin here for whatever. You have your two cup holders behind the center armrest. Then the center armrest opens up, and it's a really deep amount of space that also has another USB-C jack. And they say it's a total of 7 gallons of storage up front here. And so, you know, really really impressive as far as that goes. You also have another little pocket here for the passenger and the dashboard. And so, you know, that all is fantastic in my mind. Another thing that's fantastic is the back seat, which is, honestly, I think as far as production vehicles goes, has to be the largest back seat that I remember ever being in from a, you know, a modern car. I mean, it is, I'm 5'9", and me sitting behind myself, as you can see, I can basically almost kick my legs out all the way there. You know, I can cross my legs, you know, do whatever I want to do. It's just like a ton of space back there. Of course, headroom is, you know, huge as well, and you get even more with this beautiful glass roof, which is standard here on the RST version, and that's a fixed glass roof, but really great that you have that. You also have heated rear seats back there, as well as 2 more USB-C jacks, another regular power outlet. There's also pockets in those doors. There's, you know, a full down center armrest there with 2 more cup holders in it. And so, yeah, overall, a really nice interior. You also get a Bose stereo here in these RSTs, which I haven't sampled too much, just on Sirius, which isn't the highest, you know, quality source, but sounds pretty good so far. Again, I'll need more time to test that, you know, when I have one of these for a week. But overall, you know, impressive for the interior in many ways, very good use of space and all that. Just needs a material upgrade in my opinion. And here's the key for the Silverado EV. I'd usually say let's turn it on and go for a drive, but with this vehicle, it has hands-free start. So whenever you hop in this vehicle with the key in your pocket, it turns right on, you put your foot on the brake, and it all comes alive and is ready to go. Now, there's a few ways you can manually turn it off if you don't want to have everything on and you're sitting in here on the screen here. You can do that. You can also leave the vehicle on, because otherwise it will turn off automatically the second you get out of here. You can put it on a 60-minute timer, so if you have, you know, other people in the vehicle or whatever, and you want to just, you know, leave the vehicle for a second, you know, you can still have that running, so you have your air conditioning or heat running, you know, and keep everyone comfortable, you know, while you're not physically in the vehicle with the key. So that is certainly a nice touch as well, that you can have that. You can also manually turn the screen off if you don't love it, but you know, just nice that you have those things. Some other EVs, they don't give you that flexibility, and I really like you have that here in this. All right, so we're gonna try a wide open Watts launch here. I got it in the mode. It gives you a cool little sound effect, and you have to manually lower everything down, put everything into sport mode. It just gives you only extra power with that wide open Watts. So if you want to have everything else sporty, to maximize that experience, you gotta hit that. But anyway, there's no special sequence otherwise. You just floor it, and so here we go. All right. You get some sound there. It actually was like wiggling a little bit here. Man. And we'll go down to a nice stop. Pretty punchy. So it's 754 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque. It'll give you a 0 to 60 time of less than 4.5 seconds, they say. And it certainly is less extreme than what you get in the Hummer EV, that's for sure. Because that, like, you know, 3 seconds, 0 to 60, 1,000 horsepower, you know, that's a little bit more extreme than this. But, you know, it's a healthy amount of power. It's definitely fun, and it's really cool that you can just have that extra power whenever you want it. It doesn't have to be like this big launch sequence like the Hummer, where, you know, there's like a whole process for that. This, you know, you can just pop it in and get that power whenever you want it. All right, so now I've ditched the high visibility jacket and the closed course, and we are now out on the public roads once again. Hopefully you can see me okay without the high visibility jacket. But so setting off here, normal driving here in Silverado EV. So a couple things that I noticed immediately. The first is there is a kind of annoying little pedestrian warning hum that not only is on whenever you're, you know, going under like 25 miles per hour, which is federally mandated, nothing you can do about that one, but it also continues to play that sound when you're stopped. And I don't think other vehicles typically do that, or they're a lot quieter when you're stopped. This one, it like has this constant humming all the time until you get to 25 miles per hour. So don't love that at red lights, because it's just something I feel like you don't need when you're stationary. But outside of that, the really good things about the Silverado EV is you have really good visibility. You have a nice high seating position. The A-pillar is fairly thick, but it's far enough down your sight line here that to me it doesn't get in the way. You have the mirror off onto the door, so that's good. You have a great view out of the back, of course, in typical truck fashion, and this one even has the digital camera rear view mirror, so unobstructed view no matter what. And now we're out on the highway briefly here, and I'm using Super Cruise, which these all come with here, and Super Cruise is still my favorite system because it's the only one that's truly hands-free while trailering. You know, the F-150 Lightning does have Blue Cruise, which is hands-free as well, but you can't trailer with that. This will allow you to trailer You know, and I think that makes this the trailering champ, because I mean, to be able to do that hands-free is amazing. And Super Cruise is fantastic. It does the auto lane changes. It's a very confidence-inspiring system. Has the great driver monitoring, great communication with the steering wheel bar here, letting you know whenever it's active and all that. And I've had a lot of experience with Super Cruise and other GM vehicles. It's really, really well done. It's great to see it here in this vehicle, and that certainly helps elevate the luxury component. Because yes, you know, you might not have the luxury of, you know, a bunch of soft touch stuff on the inside or anything, but the luxury of just being able to rest your hands here. If you haven't tried it before, it might not be something you can really imagine, but like the difference between this and this is large enough on long trips that if you do a lot of highway driving and, you know, road tripping, that is going to be worth its weight in gold alone. I mean, it's going to be so, so nice, and a huge perk here of this over all the competitors. And also out here on the highway doing about, you know, 70 miles an hour here, you hear some road noise, you know, a little bit. You know, I'd say it's not, you know, as refined as most other $95,000 vehicles, but, you know, it's not bad either. And, you know, having that large battery pack helps to kind of absorb a little bit, I think, as well. And overall, yeah, just, you know, really nice out here cruising on the highway. Super Cruise doing its thing, giving me great assistance, and yeah, just love Super Cruise. And they also are adding more mileage here over the next year. They're going to add a bunch of extra roads and way more miles to this system to make it even more capable than it already is. And even we're going on an off-ramp here, and with a four-wheel steer, you know, it makes this very dynamic with the 24-inch wheels. But this vehicle is heavy. That is one thing, you know. These way, this one on the window, or on the door jamb here, it says it's 8,953 pounds to be exact. And so that is, you know, it's hefty. That's almost as heavy as the Hummer EV, or, you know, nearly identical. And it runs an identical battery pack. So at least it seems that way. It's a 205 kilowatt battery pack is what they're saying. It's the double stack 24 module thing, just like in the Hummer there. And, you know, I mean, that's what they needed to get this very high range figure. 440 miles of range here for the RST. 450 if you go for the work truck. That just blows away everything. And so this is clearly going to be the range king. And, you know, the fact that this isn't the top tower of the bunch. There's some that do slightly more towing, but you'll be able to tow for longer in this. And so I think that that, again, is going to be very valuable to people that actually are going to use this like a truck. You know, that range figure is going to be really great. And because it's this awesome Ultium pack with, you know, this top technology with Ultium, you get the 350 kilowatt charging capability, which gives you 100 miles of extra range in just 10 minutes, you know, under optimal conditions and all that. But I mean, that is really, really impressive. And so it means that even with this massive pack, I think they said it's, you know, around 40 minutes if you want to do like a full, you know, 10% to 80% kind of charge. But it's really, really impressive how fast these things charge up for as large of a pack as it is. To get, you know, majority of that range back in that amount of time is really, really sweet. Also, you might be able to hear on this nice, smooth road, you do have a fair amount of tire noise. I don't know if that's just because these are these massive 24-inch wheels or what, but I mean, you know, with a silent vehicle, that's the challenge, is you hear all these other sounds whenever you don't have an internal combustion engine to, you know, mask all that stuff. But, you know, it's just something, compared to other EVs, especially stuff at this price point, you know, this definitely stands out as having, you know, more tire noise than the average, but, you know, it should be totally fine. And again, if you have a radio going or something like that, it's going to be a non-issue. And as we are slowing down to this red light here, brakes also feel pretty good. So you have a good amount of bite right towards the top of the pedal there, and it's also larger brakes than when you get on a Hummer, thankfully. So you have 14.5-inch rotors in the front, 13.5 in the rear, versus I think 13s all around on the Hummer. So, you know, it's nice that you have some extra braking power there. You know, obviously this is less power than Hummer, but just to give you a more, you know, well-rounded experience than Hummer, it's certainly nice to have those better brakes. And they felt good also whenever we did that, you know, somewhat ABS stop there whenever we were doing the launch. And I'm going to do a usual acceleration here on the back road and see how it does. Just rolling into it. It really pulls. It pulls to the right a little bit, then it pulls to the left whenever you're just, you know, in the normal sport mode here. Now there's the wide open watts, which you can, I think, just turn on and have it on just for the full power whenever you want. I don't think it's just for launching, but you know, it's funny though. You get on the gas, the nose still lifts up a little bit, even with the dampers in their sportier setting here. You know, it still moves around, which to me adds drama and fun. I like that. For some people, if it's not fully composed, then maybe it's a little unsettling. But once you kind of know what it's doing, then I think it's just something you just roll with and it's fun. But Yeah, speaking of the suspension though, so that's all part of this My Mode system. You can customize your suspension feel, your acceleration feel, steering, even the motor sound here. So that's the sport sound. There's also the normal one here we can try out. It's a little different, but they're all pretty quiet, thankfully, so it's not like it's insanely overboard. You can also just turn it off if you'd like. But the interesting thing is that's the only way. There is no other like sport mode. So whenever you're going into the regular drive modes here, you only have normal, and then you have an off-road mode, interestingly enough, even though it can work on 24-inch wheels, and then a tow and haul mode, but that's it. It's just those three. And also, if you want the softest suspension setting, there is one softer setting than the Tour mode, or than the normal mode here, called Tour. But I wish there was just a Tour mode that gave me all the softest stuff, you know, just if you want that maximum comfort. Because, so we have this air suspension, and this road's actually a great example. We're on this little bit of a, you know, bumpier road. You can hear me going over some of those bumps here. And it's fine. But, you know, even in the Tour mode, we were noticing earlier, it's softer. I would really love to see the magnetic ride control here, because it's just an adaptive air ride suspension. And I mean, you have some variability there for sure, you know, between Sport and Tour. There's, you know, a difference. It's certainly softer in the Tour mode, but I still am wishing for it to be even a little bit softer yet. I mean, if you're coming out of any other truck, you know, you feel the body on frame jiggles and stuff. This certainly removes those jiggles, you know, but you still have some of that extra communication you usually get in a pickup truck. You still have that. So to me, this does still feel like a truck, just because of the way they set up the suspension tuning. You know, I'm guessing if you want one of these EVs with a super soft ride, you can either go for Hummer, which, you know, I think was a nice soft ride for sure, or, you know, there's going to be, of course, Escalade IQ coming and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the ride is going to be totally fine though for most people, and you know, be curious to see, you know, with the GMC Sierra EV coming, if that's going to, you know, have anything softer for their setup. But it's still going to be totally fine. I really love the four-wheel steer that you get here, and these, it's one of the best things about any vehicle usually that has four-wheel steer, but especially in something like this, you know, being as large as it is, it makes your turning radius way shorter. It helps with maneuverability, parking, also stability, and, you know, dynamic performance. We're gonna have some more dynamic roads, I think, a little bit later. I'll push this a little bit more. Again, we're talking about a nearly 9,000-pound truck, but I'll try it out a little bit more in a few minutes. But you know, overall, just from a daily livability standpoint, it's not going to blow you away with comfort or anything, I don't think, but it's going to be totally fine. And I think for most people, they won't have an issue, especially if you're coming out of a regular, you know, normal full-size truck. And again, the feeling for everything is totally customizable, but just in the normal mode here, I'll say that steering actually feels really nice. There's a little bit of heft to it. It, you know, feels fairly quick. You know, I'd say it's a little bit quicker than your average truck steering ratio, in my opinion, but, you know, feels really great. You know, and like I said, throttle response and all that is customizable, but in the normal mode here, everything is as you would expect. There's no weird feeling from the brake pedal or anything. It's very predictable, very easy to use, and just feels normal, which is what you want. It does exactly what you expect it to do, and that's something that's not always easy to achieve with other vehicles out there. So really good that they've, you know, managed to make it as normal feeling as it is. All right, so we got a few corners here coming up. I'm going to sample the handling here in this a little bit. Again, not going to review this like a sports car because it's a, you know, nearly 9,000-pound truck, but you know, it does have a lot of interesting handling hardware between the 275 wide tires. You also have, like I said, the four-wheel steering, the air ride suspension, which can raise or lower 2 inches, and so we got some corners here, and so far it's you know, doing a fine job. You definitely feel the weight. That is one thing. We got 2 more tighter corners here coming up that'll really show that off. But you know, everything's in the sport mode, by the way, so it's got the stiffer dampers, which is, you know, great there if you are in a sporty mood for whatever reason. I mean, this is the fastest Silverado ever, so I can see why, you know, if you're someone buying this hoping it's, you know, gonna be like a sport truck, you know, I mean, it definitely, you know, shoots you out of corners really nicely. Of course, the dual motor all-wheel drive system you have here. The one thing I will say is, you know, these 24-inch wheels, you're running very high PSI for the tires, and so another tight corner here. You know, you can just feel there's some limits here. I mean, it's, you know, it's not something you're gonna want to push. It handles better than the Hummer, of course, you know, with that thing having like mud tires on it, but you know, it's still, you can only do so much with a 9,000-pound truck. So just go into it, knowing that it's, it's flat, of course, thanks to the low center of gravity and all that, but it's just a lot of weight. So that's going to be your limiting factor here on, whenever any kind of dynamic driving scenario you're doing. It's more so about enjoying the straight line performance here in this vehicle, and that is a ton of fun, but it's not going to be any kind of sports car or pretend to be. One other quick thing I want to mention is just the efficiency, which, isn't going to be great, even though you have a ton of range. It's just because you have a massive battery. It's just crazy that, the Rivian does fairly close range. I think they max out like 400 miles of range, with a smaller battery. With this, I think we're seeing between 1.5 and like 1.7, 1.8 kilowatt per mile is, what we've been seeing. And, I'll have to test one of these on my own roads and live with it for a week to see, what my true efficiency is. But just don't count on this being very efficient. Same deal as, Hummer EV, not being very efficient. This is going to probably be a little bit better, since we're on street-oriented tires and maybe, a little bit better aerodynamics, but otherwise, all the same other hurdles there that Hummer has to jump over in order to, try and get some kind of efficiency. But anyway, the last thing to mention is pricing and how this compares to the competition. And, that is an area where, at least for this RST First Edition, which is, pretty fully loaded and, is towards the top of the trim level here, there will be cheaper ones. There's already the work truck version. There's going to be other variants as well, as they said, even a Trail Boss coming in 2025. So stay tuned for all that stuff. But $96,000 roughly, including destination, for this one as it is. And, it's really going to come down to how badly do you want the range, how badly do you want the power. The Rivian R1T does match the Silverado's 0 to 60 time in its base motor configuration and does offer a pretty close 410 miles of range, but because the truck is smaller and lighter, it only needs 533 horsepower to achieve that same performance, so it loses the horsepower bragging rights. You can get 835 horsepower and a 3-second 0 to 60 time in the quad motor version to regain those bragging rights. Plus, it comes in about $9,000 less than the Chevy, but that version is currently only available with the smaller battery that only does 328 miles of range, meaning the Silverado EV technically still has the top combo of horsepower and range, even if the horsepower doesn't actually make it any faster. But the Rivian also has a middle performance motor version set up with the max battery that'll give you that same 410 mile range and a faster 3.5 second 0 to 60 time for just $94,000. And so in my mind, that is the strongest competitor here to the Silverado EV. So either it's those two things, or it's the mid-gate or some other unique thing here that will sell you on this, because otherwise, like the Lightning with its Platinum version, again, only does 300 miles of range, way less range than this, but you get like massaging seats. It's a very luxurious interior in that Lightning for like $89,000 less, a significant amount less than this. So it's just really, again, that it really does come down to that range, that performance. Although, it seems like Lightning is pretty similar to 0 to 60, just because, again, it's a lot lighter, and so you have less way to, get up to speed there versus this. So the horsepower advantage, might not be as massive as it seems on paper, potentially, for the Silverado EV. But regardless, just the bragging rights of 754 horsepower, whatever, it's just you have that here with this, and that is certainly a nice perk. But also there's Cybertruck, which is kind of a thing in and of itself. You either want a Cybertruck or you don't. It's very polarizing, so it's really hard to even consider that, a strong competitor. But if you are someone who happens to be cross-shopping this with Cybertruck, again, this has more range. It also charges faster than all the others, which is another big perk. Again, it's a bigger battery, but it does charge faster. The Rivian is the one that I believe that in the Tesla, get, or like the second runners up, but still not even close to the 350 kilowatts this does. So, there's certain advantages for sure of the Silverado EV. If you find those advantages to be something that's really desirable for you, by all means, go for it, or wait for one of the lower price ones down the road that bring the price a little bit lower. But if you're just an electric truck buyer that is going to be happy with like the 300 miles of range and the Lightning, I think that then is a better value from a luxury standpoint. The features you get for the money, that is going to give you more for less money. But I really think one of the other unique things here about the Silverado is just that it is a unique body style. I guess you can say the same for the Rivian and the Cybertruck, but compared to Lightning, if you want something that doesn't just look like a slightly fancier regular F-150, I mean, this looks nothing like the regular Silverado and really looks like a truck of the future. It has features like the mid-gate and things like that that really make it feel futuristic as well. And so, it's just going to come down to, again, what your preferences are. The Lightning also has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Again, you don't have in this. So, there's a few things. It's going to really just come down to personal preference. But I got to say that I love the Silverado EV. It's a ton of fun. and it's a really cool truck. Really happy that they made this a reality, kept it as wild as they did, and they didn't water it down like we saw Ram do with the Ram Rev. Crazy concept that then just ends up being, you know, an electric version of the regular Ram. I like that Chevy really stuck to their guns and went for the crazy wild concept kind of thing with this, and hopefully it will pay off for them, you know, for people who do want something that does stand out from, you know, the growing list of regular electric pickup trucks out there. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Chevy Silverado EV. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks once again to Chevrolet for providing me here with this opportunity to review this truck for you guys today. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.